What would you do if the last words you heard from someone were a request you couldn't refuse? I didn't understand at first. He leaned closer, his voice low enough that it was almost drowned by the hum of the street. If something happens to me, don't call the police. Go to the place I told you about, and take everything. It was such a strange thing to say that my first instinct was to laugh. But I couldn't. His eyes, they weren't asking. They were pleading. And then, they were gone. The crowd swallowed him up. I stood there, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was pushing the air out of my lungs. My mind was already firing questions I couldn't answer. What place? What's everything? Why me? I tried to convince myself I'd misheard, that it wasn't serious, that it was one of those weird, passing encounters you tell friends about and move on. But that hope shattered less than 3 minutes later. The sound hit first, a single sharp crack that cut through the city noise. People screamed. And then, I saw him again. He was on the ground, not moving. The same man who, moments earlier, had leaned in close enough for me to smell the cigarette smoke in his coat, now lay still under the cold weight of the pavement. And here's the thing that made my stomach twist. When they rolled him onto his side, I saw his hand. His fingers were wrapped so tightly around a small, folded scrap of paper that even the paramedics struggled to pry it loose. I knew before I touched it, that note was meant for me. And in that moment, with sirens closing in and strangers pushing past to get a better look, my life tilted. Because I suddenly realized, this wasn't a random encounter. This was a chain reaction that had already started, and I was standing right in the center of it. I had no idea what I was holding in my hand, but I did know one thing: whatever it was, people were willing to kill for it. Would you open something if you knew your life might never be the same after you read it? The paper in my hand felt heavier than it should. It was just a scrap, thin, creased, damp from the rain. But I could feel my fingers trembling as if I was holding a live wire. Around me, everything was chaos. Shouts from bystanders, the mechanical bark of police radios, the metallic slam of ambulance doors. Someone was crying, not loud, but enough for the sound to cut into me like glass. I could have handed it over right then. I could have walked up to the nearest officer, dropped the note into his gloved hand, and walked away like none of this was mine to carry. But I didn't, because deep down I already knew. This was meant for me. I slipped it into my pocket before anyone could notice. The sirens faded behind me as I walked, stumbled, away from the scene. Every step felt heavier, like I was walking deeper into something I couldn't see. When I finally found a corner with no cameras, no eyes watching, I pulled it out. The edges were soft from being clenched so tightly in his hand, and there was a faint smudge across the middle, blood. I unfolded it once, twice. The handwriting was hurried, jagged, the kind you see when someone is writing faster than they can think. Do not trust anyone. Locker 317. Train station. Before 9. That was it. No name, no signature, no explanation. Just 10 words that made my stomach drop through the floor. I checked my watch. 8:17. 43 minutes. And in that moment, the noise of the city seemed to fade, replaced by the rush of my own pulse in my ears. Because I knew the man who gave me this note was dead. And if someone had killed him for it, then I had just become the next target. The station was on the other side of the city. I didn't have time to think, only to move. And as I stepped into the street, pulling my hood low, one thought kept repeating in my head. Who else knows I have this note? If someone wanted you dead, how close would they have to get before you knew they were there? By the time I reached the station, my hands were numb. Not from the cold, from the way I'd been clenching them inside my pockets the entire ride. The note pressed flat against my palm like it might vanish if I let go. The place was alive with noise. Footsteps echoing off tiled floors. Announcements crackling overhead, distorted by old speakers. The smell of coffee, engine fumes, and something else. Metallic, like the air before a storm. I scanned the crowd. Commuters, tourists, people scrolling on their phones. People rushing like they were late for something that couldn't wait. No one looking directly at me, But that didn't make me feel safer. Because I knew, if anyone was here for me, they wouldn't be looking at me. Not yet. Locker 317. I found the row, an endless stretch of steel doors, each identical except for the small numbered plates. My eyes darted, counting fast. 310, 312, 314, and then 317. It was wedged between two lockers with fresh scrapes across the paint, like someone had tried to pry them open recently. The lock on mine looked untouched. I glanced around again, too fast. I knew I'd made it obvious. The key. Except, there was no key. I stared at the note again, my breath fogging in the cold air that leaked from the platform tunnels below. No instructions, no combination, nothing but the words Locker 317. I pressed my fingers against the latch, testing. It didn't budge. And then I felt it, a shift in the air, like someone had stepped into my space without making a sound. I turned just enough to see a figure standing at the far end of the locker aisle. They weren't moving. They weren't pretending to browse. They were just watching. The crowd moved between us, but my pulse had already kicked into overdrive. Because I realized something in that moment. I didn't need the key. Whoever had it was already here. When you realize you're not just being watched, how far would you go to survive the moment that's already started? I didn't wait to see if the figure would make the first move. My heart slammed against my ribs like a warning drum, loud, desperate, impossible to ignore. I shoved the locker door hard. Locked. Panic clawed up my throat. The watcher took a step forward, a shadow sliding through the crowd. Calm, cold, and sure. No sudden moves. A voice whispered, low and steady, almost too close. I froze, every nerve screaming. But my feet remembered faster than my brain. I spun around, elbowed a passerby, and bolted. The station became a blur. Echoing footsteps behind me, growing louder, closer. My lungs burned as I wove through the sea of strangers. Every turn, every shadow felt like a trap tightening. Then a sharp breath on my neck, a hand grabbing my arm. I yanked free, heart thundering. This was no longer a game of secrets. It was survival, and the chase had only just begun. When every turn leads nowhere, what do you do when your only way out is through? My legs felt like they'd turned to stone. Every breath was a ragged gasp. The crowd swallowed me again. Faces blurring, voices fading. Ahead, the exit was just out of reach. Security cameras blinked like watchful eyes. I risked a glance behind. The shadow was closer now. No disguise, no hesitation. I pressed myself against the cold wall, heart pounding like a warning drum. Hands shaking, I fumbled for my phone. No signal. No one could help me. I had to think fast. The next move could mean the difference between freedom or becoming the next headline. When escape feels impossible, how far would you push yourself, knowing there's still steps behind? My chest burned like a furnace. Every breath felt sharp and shallow. The station's fluorescent lights flickered overhead, cold and unwelcoming. I scanned the exits again, all blocked by barriers or crowded with people. No easy way out. My phone buzzed. No caller ID. I didn't answer. I didn't want to know. Footsteps. Closer. Faster. I squeezed through a narrow gap between two pillars. My heart thundered. Hands clammy. Sweat blurring my vision. Ahead, a stairwell open. No security cameras. I bolted. The sound of pursuit faded behind me. Just for a moment. Then it was back. Louder. More certain. I reached the top, gasping. The cold air hit my face. A cruel reminder that the city never sleeps, and neither do my hunters. I had no plan, no backup. Only the note in my pocket and the knowledge that turning back was no longer an option. When every second could be your last, what do you risk to finally uncover the truth? My lungs were on fire. The stairwell emptied into a quiet alley. No crowds, no noise, just the cold night pressing in. I paused, heart hammering, every instinct screaming to run. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because in my pocket, that scrap of paper burned like a secret I had to reveal. And then footsteps. Not behind me. To my side. A figure stepped from the shadows, face half hidden in darkness. "Give me the note," they said, calm, deadly. I swallowed the lump in my throat, voice barely a whisper. "Why? What is it?" The answer didn't come. Instead, a flash of steel, a knife glinting cold under the street lamp. Fight or flight disappeared. All I felt was pure, raw terror. But in that moment, something inside me snapped. I ran not from fear, but toward the truth. Because whatever this was, whatever they were willing to kill for, I had to see it through. The chase ended at the edge of the city, where secrets buried deep could no longer hide. And as dawn cracked the sky, I knew one thing for certain. This story was far from over. If you want to uncover more dark truths and chilling stories like this, subscribe to the Veil of Secret, where every secret has a story.